So my mission is to empower sensitive people to treat their own sensitivity, not as a weakness, but as a strength. And for the longest time in my life, I had no idea that I was actually highly sensitive. And I perceived, once I found that was the case, I perceived my sensitivity as something that was limiting me, something that I wanted to get over, and something that I considered actually as a weakness. And if you find yourself in a similar situation, stick around, because I have news for you. Your sensitivity is one of your greatest gifts, and one of the greatest gifts that you can share with the world. But before we get there, you need to realize that you're highly sensitive. And it could be that you are, that because of your high sensitivity, that the world is too much for you. That's the overstimulating environment that we find ourselves in, whether in the physical world or in the digital world, is too much for you. So you end up numbing yourself or having some perhaps unhealthy coping strategies. But once you discover that you're highly sensitive, the second step is to understand what that really means and where it comes from. And thirdly, to know how to reframe that, how to turn it around, and how to hold your high sensitivity so it can become a strength. So turning to realizing that you're highly sensitive, it could be that you've been told that in your childhood. Oh, don't be so sensitive. I certainly remember that growing up. And it made me think of, my way of being as not being good enough, or having to push harder. And in fact, I even trained myself in doing that. And in my 20s, I prided myself on never saying no, and ended up doing too much, being overwhelmed. And part of recognizing that you're highly sensitive is honoring it. So not always saying yes, and just checking, is this something that would benefit me? Is this something my nervous system can take at this moment? And daring to say no to invitations that arise, and knowing when the digital overwhelm is coming into your world, and switching off, going into nature and nurturing yourself and supporting your high sensitivity. And once we've acknowledged that that is the case, and I'll make some more videos on this, and I'll link a video I've already done on this below. The second step is to learn about the origins of our high sensitivity. And in research, it's obvious that for about 20% of the population that is highly sensitive, there's the neurology, so it's genetically determined to an extent, is more finely wired, so that there is, let's say, predetermined element in it. But there's a lot more than that. So in your childhood, certain formative experiences have contributed to your high sensitivity, and it's important to acknowledge it, and it's important to be able to hold it and to view it from a larger perspective, a perspective of your adult self, and not through children's eyes. So in our childhood, very often, the environment we find ourselves in, the childcare that we receive even in our earliest childhood as babies, determines, for example, our attachment styles, and the sensitivity you have to social cues, And as any young baby, we're at the mercy of our environment. So we end up adjusting so that our needs are to be taken care of. So the level of sensitivity is also partially determined by your background. And I have made some videos on attachment styles and how this all develops in our earliest youth, which I will also attach below. There are, of course, apart from environmental factors, there's also intergeneral factors that play into this, but that's for a later time. So having acknowledged that you're highly sensitive, having looked a little bit into the background, how this is so and how it has developed and taken form in your life, what can we do to reframe this high sensitivity into a strength? Because if you allow the circumstances, the outward circumstances in your life to be supportive of your high sensitivity, you will discover that this is an enormous source of strength and of positivity. You are able to enjoy art or nature on a very deep level. And you can bring that sense of wonder and a sense of connection with your with people in your environment. You have so much contribute. The relationships that you form are very deep, and people in your presence feel seen and heard, and they share from their heart. They're happy to tell you everything about their life and their problems and what they're struggling with. Why? Because you are able to connect on this very deep level. Being an empath, being highly sensitive, is a huge strength. You just need to learn to own it and to stand in your power. And Anita Moorjani calls this an empowered empath. And she even talks how for empaths, actually, it's important to develop the ego, to be able to stand in your power, and from there, bring all these amazing qualities that empaths, that highly sensitive people have to give. So I hope that you'll join me on this journey, and I hope that you have learned something about yourself in this video. Thank you for watching.